Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Richard Nixon.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Ronald Reagan.
Tear down this wall.
George W. Bush.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
And Donald Trump.
And a friend of mine for a long time, he only likes politics. If you ask him about how are the Yankees doing, he has no interest. If you ask him almost anything, he likes politics, and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone. This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome. I'm Roger Stone, and this is the Roger Stone Show right here at 77 WABC, the most influential, powerful, and dynamic AM radio station in the United States of America. Every Sunday from 5 to 6, we're here to talk politics, news, history, food, and to take your calls, which we're going to be doing just a little bit later. That number, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We'd be happy to take your calls in a segment we call the Stone Zone on the Phone. Is a couple of important developments. The owner of Red Apple and WABC AM, John Catsimatidis, is spearheading a very important campaign to save AM radio. You see, some of the major car manufacturers are planning to phase out AM radio from their generation of electric vehicles. This is very, very dangerous. First of all, the cost of having an AM receiver in a car is de minimis, but people don't really understand the key role that AM radio plays in the emergency broadcast system. Thinking back to the important role of AM radio during the 9/11 attacks and also past blackouts, it was during those times when landlines and later cell phones were unreliable that New Yorkers could rely on AM radio. There's also, I think, a greater diversity of opinion on AM radio. So my hat's off to John Catsimatidis, who is fighting very hard to make sure the American people understand the importance and indeed the life-saving information that AM radio still delivers. What can you do? Contact your congressman or congresswoman and tell them today that we need AM radio. It is an important question of national security. Also want to mention that there's a new book out by Miranda Devine of the New York Post. That book entitled, I guess it is The Big Guy: How a President and His Son Sold America. You can check out an excerpt from the book, today's New York Post. This is groundbreaking journalism that really, as I think many of you know, was actually blocked. The New York Post blocked, taken down from Twitter. 17% of Americans told us in more than one poll, had they known about Hunter Biden's laptop, they would have voted differently in the last presidential election. You're going to want to look for that book, The Big Guy by Miranda Devine. She's promised to come on with us perhaps as soon as next week to talk about that dynamic book. Now joining me is former New York City police detective John Macari. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the ongoing scandals surrounding the New York City Police Department. I cannot believe some of these headlines. John Macari is not only a former New York City police officer serving with distinction, but he is also the host of New York's Finest, Retired, and Unfiltered podcast, a show that explores everyday life, law enforcement issues, and politics in New York City and the NYPD. You can see him and his show on YouTube, Rumble, X, Spotify, and everyone else. John Macari, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Hey, Raj, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate your voice, and I appreciate 770 for having you on. I mean, it's a great show. It's one of my favorite shows on AM radio.
Well, you are very kind. There seems to be a series of events here. It's all happened very quickly for, I think, the public, although some saw this impending corruption scandal much, much earlier. Our mutual friend, Salvatore Greco, a 14-year veteran of the New York City Police Department who served the graveyard shift in some of the most dangerous precincts in the city, won many awards for his exemplary duties and functions as a law enforcement officer, began complaining early. Not only had he been victimized by the Adams administration for his friendship with me, which they claimed violated a New York City regulation by the NYPD, a regulation that the mayor and his cronies seem to violate themselves every single day. So I guess let's go big picture to start. What do you think the status of the current corruption probe into the New York City Police Department under Mayor Adams, where New York City Police Commissioner Ed Caban, according to the New York Post, resigned last week, I guess it was, after a series of federal aids. Another story that says that they are probing the police commissioner's twin brother over allegations that he may have been selling protection to restaurants and night spots when it came to the New York City regulation of those spots. Now, just recently, there's a new story regarding federal subpoenas to a Brooklyn church over possible dealings with key Mayor Adams advisor Frank Carone. And then one I know a little bit about, federal investigators now subpoenaing Mayor Adams' asylum-seeking operations director for information regarding Tim Pearson, an aide to Mayor Adams, an aide who, by the way, wrote a letter, a character reference in the case of Charles McGonigal. He was the FBI agent who was running the Russian collusion investigation. It turns out he was taking payments from Russia at the same time, for which he was convicted and is now in prison. What's going on in this investigation, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the Adams administration is surrounded by smoke, and Eric Adams himself always likes to say, where there's smoke, there isn't always fire. And I'll agree with that. I'll agree with the statement that where there's smoke, there isn't always fire. But there are plumes of smoke from nearly every Eric Adams appointment there's been, whether it relates to the police department, where we had Police Commissioner Ed Caban, who fired your friend Sal Greco, my mutual friend Sal Greco, for criminal association when early on, Sal Greco and others were out there saying, hey, look, they're hanging out with nefarious underworld characters. They're hanging out in places they shouldn't be. The NYPD is giving the appearance of impropriety, and they're violating their own policy, and they're violating the policy that they fired Sal Greco for. Then it comes out there's a basically an allegation of a protection racket scandal, like a influence peddling scandal, where the police commissioner's twin brother, who was getting a taxpayer-funded NYPD police vehicle and security team, was driving around and basically selling his own security guards with the premise that if you hire me and you hire my consulting firms and you put my security guards in your place of business, you won't ever have a problem with the NYPD. And that's a classic protection extortion racket that we've seen in throughout the ages in mafia style, and that's what's being alleged from the New York City Police Department. So Police Commissioner Ed Caban steps down. At that point, Marcia Kramer reports on ABC. She reports that an ask from federal prosecutors was to appoint somebody from the outside. This did not get taken well by all reports that I have from sources, by the upper echelon of the NYPD, especially those who were in place to possibly become the next police commissioner. They were very angry about this, and Tom Donlin was appointed. Again, it was an ask to go outside by the federal prosecutors. And so Tom Donlin's appointed by Eric Adams, and now last night we hear his house was raided. And apparently it's about documents that he held on to for 20 years with his time in service when he was working as a federal agent. And, a lot of people are saying, it's a political target on Eric Adams' back. This appears to be political. They're going after everyone around Eric Adams. I'm looking at that completely different. I'm saying this appears to be someone who the police commissioner worked with at a time that had information on him, that was not happy with his appointment to police commissioner, that knew he had some documents. Obviously, it had to have some legs for the feds to go to his residences, not just one residence, but numerous residences, and basically raid his homes as another seated police commissioner. And like I said, the Eric Adams administration, he's in line at this point to beat Jimmy Walker, who actually stepped down, the night mayor, or the nightclub mayor, as he liked to call himself. As it sits right now, Jimmy Walker and Eric Adams are tied for the only two mayors in one term to go through three police commissioners. So, everything that we're seeing and hearing around the Adams administration and his appointments, the NYPD appeared to have been getting some type of direction when Tom Donlin stepped in. But, again, we have a lot of people in place that remain, that were working and have accusations, the same accusations that the police commissioner stepped down for, the former police commissioner, Ed Caban, stepped down for. So, it's drawing a negative light on the NYPD. And at the same time, we have Timothy Pearson, another appointee of Eric Adams, the two Banks brothers. One is Philip Banks, who's the deputy mayor of public safety, who's an unindicted co-conspirator, who was, when he was appointed, people were flabbergasted, like, how are you appointing this guy to the deputy commissioner of public safety, deputy mayor of public safety? He appoints him, as well as he appoints his brother to school chancellor. And what the allegations that are coming out there now, investigations are around selling contracts. And these are serious allegations. These are very serious allegations. This goes beyond lawfare. There, like I said, he likes to sit there and say, where there's smoke, there's not always fire. But there are plumes of smoke around this man. This administration right now is really destroying New York City. And I call it, it's just another day. Every day we're waking up to something new. And every day it's as New York City burns. That's how I'm seeing this. If I wrote this in a book, they would probably file this in the fiction section at this point. It's honestly, New York City appears to be rudderless, as well as the NYPD at this point under Eric Adams.
We stress, as we always do, that in America, people are innocent until proven guilty. Some have been charged, others have not yet been charged, others may not be charged, but it is most certainly news. When the FBI raids the home of one of Mayor Adams' fundraisers, for example, that is news. We're going to be right back with John Macari, a retired former lieutenant in the New York City Police Department, so don't go away.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC. It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
And we're back, folks. Now would be a perfect time for you to go to the App Store on your phone and download the 77 WABC app so you don't miss any of the extraordinary programming we have here on the most dynamic AM radio station in America today. We are indeed the crown jewel of AM radio, whether it is my friend Larry Kudlow on Saturdays or Sid Rosenberg, who fills you in first thing in the morning, or you like the offbeat late night show of Frank Morano on the other side of midnight, Dominic Carter, Cindy Adams, Katz and Cosby, Curtis Sliwa. You really don't know where to stop. An all-star lineup only at 77 WABC Radio. When you download the app to your phone, that way, because of work or family, you can't listen to your favorite shows. You can always go back and listen to them later. And, of course, that includes the Roger Stone Show. So do it right now. Go to your cell phone and download the 77 WABC radio app. We're talking to a former New York City Police Department lieutenant, founder and host of the New York's finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast. And we're talking about the tumult in the Adams administration, much pertaining to this, what I think you could fairly call a burgeoning scandal, centers around a night spot in the Bronx called Casa Frito, as my friend Sal Greco likes to remind me. And at first I kind of discounted that, but there seems to be more to it than that. Tell us about this night spot where allegedly high-level officials in the New York City Police Department consorted with those who, based on the regulations of the NYPD, have in the past or may in the future have engaged in criminal activity. That's what they fired Sal Greco for, but how come other officers were not held to this same standard?
Absolutely. The firing of the Sal Greco was a political firing. You know, it was absolutely political. It was absolutely a biased firing because, you know, I had Sal on the show after he was fired, and he had pointed out Casa Frito in the Bronx, which was owned by former police commissioner Ed Kabam's brother and co-owned with a self-admitted criminal. So I had Sal on the show. He pointed out the fact that top-ranking officials in the New York City Police Department, his own PBA president at the time, Patrick Lynch, numerous police officers, active police officers, and upper echelon of the NYPD were hanging out with nefarious characters, not only just the police commissioner's brother's business partner, but numerous other convicted felons, which Sal Greco was fired for. And almost immediately after he had came on and revealed that on the show, I started receiving threats from the police commissioner's brother's business partner, who is a self-admitted criminal, Jimmy Rodriguez, who's also, on top of the police department officials hanging out with them, he also had very well known and high-ranking Democratic politicians hanging out there at the same time. So, you know, Sal had alleged there were numerous things going on there. It wasn't just Sal. It was numerous other people started to push out who these people were and what was going on at this place. All allegations. At the same time, the place was, they weren't paying their rent. The owner of the property was suing them. He wanted them out. as well as they were operating an illegal shed that had numerous violations against it for sitting for a while, a long time, when other business would have been shuttered already. So they were basically operating with impunity, and Sal had pointed that out very early on. I want to say over a year ago now, that this place was operating with impunity. Police department officials were hanging out with known felons where it's being alleged that criminal activity is taking place. Obviously not something that New York City residents would expect, or anyone across this country, from a sworn officer to be hanging out with known criminals, especially, we swear an oath and we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Obviously, the firing of Sal Greco, it shows right then and there how political it was. I mean, they fired him for hanging out with you, Roger, and you have a pardon from the 45th president of the United States. And your arrest and your conviction was very political. The arrest and the crimes of the people that the New York City officials and the NYPD officials are hanging out with are not political. These are street crimes. These are low-level crimes, drugs, extortion, just basic mafia-style crimes where no police officer should ever be involved with because it could give the appearance of impropriety. Sal Greco hanging out with you, he could do no favors for you. He could influence nothing for you. So it was absolutely ridiculous what happened. And here we have this nightclub that nothing happened to them. Other businesses are being held to standard. They're not. And the only thing that we have there is basically what this business owner that came out recently said, is that there's these people, the upper echelon of the NYPD, along with the police commissioner, his twin brother, who's not the same owner of this business, are basically running an extortion protection racket where they're able to get you out of tickets and things of that nature, not only with the New York City Police Department, but with other state agencies. And yeah, I think Sal Greco hit the nail on the head because that's exactly what it appeared to be. The business did get shuttered recently, but after a year of basically Sal calling it out everywhere.
Let's go to the broader question of crime today in New York City. We saw this in the presidential debates last week when Kamala Harris, the vice president, claimed in the ABC debate that crime was down across the board in every category, only to have the new FBI numbers come out days later showing that crime was up in every category. In other words, those who fact-checked Trump were wrong. The Adams administration insists that crime is down under their statistics. Are they fudging the numbers?
So, I mean, they point to arbitrary time periods. What the NYPD does is they'll point to a 7-day period. They'll point to a 28-day period. They don't look and take crime as a whole in the Adams administration, because if you take crime as a whole or violent crime as a whole, crime is up over 30% since Eric Adams stepped into office. But when you look at what Eric Adams puts out, they'll take 3 crimes. They'll say, okay, shootings are down, homicides are down, and something's down, crime's down. But it's arbitrary. It's not, they don't take big picture crime. And literally no one believes them. No New York City resident believes them because they shouldn't, because by their own numbers, crime's up over 30%, both regular crime and violent crime's up 30% since the day Eric Adams took office. It's up even more from 2019 when bail reform, discovery reform, and a lot of these progressive pro-criminal reforms were instituted in New York State. So it's up even further in that. But, yeah, so Eric Adams and the NYPD, I won't say that they're fudging numbers, but they're absolutely misleading people. There have been some questionable things that have happened, which raised my eyebrow. Recently, there was a young man in a movie theater who was beat up and robbed by other kids. They beat him up and robbed him. The report should have been taken as a robbery. Staten Island Advance reported that when they called the NYPD to see what happened, the NYPD said it was a petit larceny. So a robbery is a felony complaint. So obviously, if the complaint is taken wrong on the scene, that number never gets down. And now we just have a pettit larceny, and they tell you that crime's down because a pettit larceny is a misdemeanor crime and does not get counted into the overall crime stats when we talk about is crime up, is crime down in New York City. And they play the same game when it comes to transit. Transit crimes down, transit crimes down. But what they don't tell you is that we're on pace right now to have the most homicides inside of New York City transit than we've had in 25 years. So, I mean, you know, what they're doing, that they're misleading the public. They're basically misleading the public, as well as there are definitely games being played, and there are provable instances that I could point to where that happens. I won't say that happens all the time. Obviously, reports, you know, things could get misconstrued from the report taking time to when someone has time to actually recollect the events properly. So, you know, crimes are dynamic situations. But, yeah, crimes up in New York City, overall crimes up in New York City, violent crimes up in New York City, and everyone feels it. Everyone.
I thought I recalled reading that there were specific complaints made about illegal activity at Consofrito, including drug activity, sexual trafficking activity, violations of their liquor license. Whatever happened to those complaints?
Well, that's a good question, and that's what we're trying to figure out now. I know Sal Greco actually, in his lawsuit, has actual documentation of notifications that were made to the NYPD's Vice Enforcement Unit, which would deal with complaints of sex trafficking, drugs, things of that nature, and basically they were never answered out, and that should be concerning. It should not only be concerning for New York City residents, but it should be concerning for every business owner. Every business owner is held to standards. And depending upon who you know, this gives the appearance that, well, if you know someone or the right people hang out in your place, you could basically operate with impunity, as well as, you know, Department of Health violations, fire violations, Department of Building violations, NYPD's own violations, State Liquor Authority violations, all of these completely unanswered. And as New York City residents, everybody has to be sitting there and asking themselves, what is happening when we're having a breakdown of the people who are supposed to enforce laws doing it arbitrarily? I mean, you know, the motto for Alvin Bragg's office is one standard of justice for all. But when you look at New York City and New York State, we don't see one standard of justice of all. We see one standard of justice for some and a different standard of justice for others. And that's what's happening. So that's the big picture. Is that a microcosm? That little bar restaurant, that's a microcosm of everything that's wrong in the Adams administration and in New York State as a whole. It's something we should all be looking at. Again, this is a place that serves alcohol, serves food, and you know, historically, NYPD, in response with other state agencies, we would do what's called a MARCH program, multi-agency response team. We'd go out and we'd do checks on these locations, especially when we had numerous complaints from the communities. And we'd go there and make sure everything's up to stuff. They're not selling bad alcohol or bad food. The kitchen's clean. They don't have any fire violations. It's not a danger to the public. And that appears to not have been happening. As in December of 23, Eric Adams actually dismantled the MARCH program. So we no longer did that. It basically created a void, and he put this Office of the Nightlife in place of it. And he said basically the NYPD was going to work in conjunction with the NYPD to address any community complaints around bars or restaurants. What's very concerning about that is because the business owner in Brooklyn and Coney Island, he reached out. He was having problems with the NYPD issuing him violations. He wanted to know what he could do to cure that. And this is what Eric Adams had put in place, the CURE program with the Office of Nightlife. So he reached out to the Office of Nightlife. He spoke to a man there, Ray Martin. Ray Martin is a well-known friend of Eric Adams, well-documented. I actually posted some stuff about it on my social media. And he reaches out to Ray Martin. He says, listen, I'm having a lot of problems with the NYPD. I want to keep my business open. I don't know what to do. He reaches out to him in an official capacity to the Office of Nightlife. He wants to further his business and operate it legally and be allowed to make money and provide for his family. And when he reaches out to Ray Martin, Ray Martin's advice to him is either reach out to the former police commissioner's twin brother, James Caban, or shut your business. So the business owner reaches out to the former police commissioner's twin brother, James Caban, and what the business owner alleges is that James Caban tells him, give me $2,500 and I'll take care of all your problems. The business owner feels that that's extortion. He doesn't feel it's right because it's not right. The appearance is completely wrong. He doesn't pay, and he says from that time on, not only did the enforcement against his business not stop, it ramped up. So the appearances here there's several high corruption allegations happening here, not only with the New York City Police Department, but around the entirety of the Eric Adams administration. And these investigations are very warranted. They're warranted. Everyone in New York City should be asking for it.
All right. I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Our thanks to former police lieutenant John Macari. Again, folks, we're going to be taking your calls at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222 when we come right back.